In the year 155, in a war camp on the edge of the empire, word reaches Rome that the emperor is dead. Marcus Aurelius, commander of the largest army on earth, is gone. Except he isn't. He is very much alive, standing in the dark, watching the one man he trusted above all others crown himself emperor in his place. A general named Avidius Cassius has just declared war on him. This is the moment history remembers Marcus Aurelius for. But it is not the moment that made him. What made him was written in secret, in a book he never intended for anyone else to read. A private war journal, scrawled between battles and plagues and betrayals, addressed to an audience of exactly one. Himself. 2,000 years later, that book still survives. It steadied Napoleon before campaigns. It rode with Theodore Roosevelt through the jungles of South America. It sits, dog-eared, on the nightstands of generals who never speak its name aloud. Tonight, we open it. And we begin with the question Marcus asked himself before anything else. A question sharp enough to cut straight through excuses. Is this essential? Marcus understood something most men in power never learn. Motivation is not infinite. It runs dry. And most of what fills a single day is not important at all. It is noise dressed up as obligation, busy work wearing the mask of purpose. So he interrogated everything, every task, every worry, every demand on his time received the same brutal question: is this essential? If the answer was no, it was cut away without apology. What remained was sharpened, focused, dangerous in its clarity. This is the first weapon of Stoicism, and it is rarely discussed. Not discipline for its own sake, elimination, because the man who wastes his strength fighting 100 meaningless battles has nothing left when the real one finally arrives at his door. And Marcus fought real battles. Plague swept through his empire and emptied entire cities overnight. Rivers flooded the frontier. Trusted generals turned traitor in the dark. His own children died, one after another, while he still had to rule an empire the next morning. And yet, across thousands of private pages meant for no other eyes, there is not a single line of self-pity, not one complaint about being betrayed, unappreciated, worked to the bone. Why? Because he had carved himself a rule and written it down as a warning to no one but himself. We should never be overheard complaining, not even to ourselves. In a palace crawling with men who whispered behind his back, the Emperor of Rome refused to whisper against his own fate. There is a colder discipline hiding underneath that silence. Marcus wrote that we always have the power to have no opinion. Things are not asking to be judged by you. Sit with that for a moment. In a city thick with conspiracy, where a friendly glance could be hiding a blade, the emperor trained his own mind not to react. Picture the coastline near his war camp at night. Waves crash against a single rock, over and over, relentless, and the rock does not move. The raging of the sea falls still around it. That was the image Marcus held in his mind while an empire tried to drag him under. And when his own thoughts began to spiral, he caught them by the throat. His son fell ill once, and every parent's nightmare came crawling in behind it. He wrote himself a warning in the dark. Do not let your imagination carry you further than the facts allow. My son is sick. I do not need to invent his funeral before it happens. The Stoics understood something we are still fighting today, centuries later. The anxiety is never inside the event itself. It lives inside us, in the stories we tell about what might happen next. Strip the story away, and what remains is only the thing directly in front of you. That, Marcus insisted, is more than enough to occupy any mind. Even waking became a battlefield fought in silence. At dawn, warm beneath the blankets, Marcus argued with himself the way a general argues with a mutinous soldier. Is this what you were made for? To hide beneath the covers while the world moves on without you? He forced himself upright with a single instruction, repeated like a drill. Act as though this were the last task you will ever perform. Not morbid, urgent. because somewhere in that palace, behind some closed door, death was always exactly one step behind him, and he never let himself forget it. Power did strange things to the men who surrounded Marcus. Flatterers circled him like scavengers, waiting for weakness. And he despised, above all of them, the ones who announced their honesty before they spoke. The ones who said, "Let me be straight with you," as though sincerity were rare enough to require a warning label first. An honest man, Marcus wrote, should be like a sharp scent that fills a room the second he walks into it. No announcement required, just presence. He had earned a nickname as a boy for exactly this reason, Verissimus, the truest one. He never learned to perform sincerity for an audience. He simply never once stopped having it, even when it cost him. But the deepest war Marcus fought was internal, and its name was ambition. He called it a form of insanity, tying your happiness to what other people think, what they say, whether they approve of you tonight. Sanity, he wrote, is tying your worth to your own actions alone. The decision is yours. The verdict the world hands down afterward never was and never will be. To crave that verdict, to need it, is to hand the keys of your own peace to strangers who were never going to guard them carefully. Once, climbing a hill above Athens, Marcus looked down at a civilization he had worshipped his entire life, and from that height, it looked small. Tombs, monuments, the ruins of empires that once seemed eternal, all blurring together into insignificance. He understood, standing there, what the ancients could only reach by climbing, and what astronauts centuries later would call the overview effect. Borders dissolve. Petty ambitions shrink to nothing. What remains is only this: the world itself does not change. People have always lied, always been petty, always disappointed those who expected better of them. But you can change. That is the entire point of the exercise. Stop waiting for a better world to arrive on its own, and start becoming a reason one might. There was one rule Marcus enforced on himself more strictly than any law of Rome. Be severe with yourself. Be gentle with everyone else. His own biographers noted that his harshest judgments never once left his own doorstep. Self-discipline, he understood, is not a blade you turn on other people. It is a private standard, meant only for the man holding it, and when others fall short of it, the correct answer is not contempt, it is patience. Then came the betrayal that should have ended him. Avidius Cassius, a general Marcus had trusted with entire legions, declared himself emperor, while Marcus lay weakened by illness, his family suddenly exposed, his empire suddenly split in two. Every instinct available to a man with his power screamed for vengeance. He refused to listen to a single one of them. He forbade executions. He begged the Senate not to stain his reign with blood, because the real victory, he wrote, is refusing to become the thing that wronged you. When jarred without warning by circumstance, he told himself, return to yourself immediately. Do not lose the rhythm any longer than you have to. The measure of a man was never that he never falls. It is only ever how fast he gets back up. And underneath everything, one fact sat unmoved. The fact Marcus returned to again and again in the hours before dawn. The fact every emperor eventually has to face, no matter how many legions stand at his back. You could leave this life right now. Let that decide what you do, what you say, what you think, today, before the choice is made for you by something else. 2,000 years later, in a war camp long turned to dust, in a body long since gone, those words are still standing upright. The only question left is whether you are willing to let them change what you do next.